everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour, the meeting place that welcomes photographers from all over the country to connect, inspire, and create. My guests share tips, techniques, and their stories behind their photographs. The schedule for upcoming presentations is on my website at lindanickell.com. And if you haven't subscribed to the Happiness Hour YouTube channel, please check it out for sessions that you may have missed. Tonight's guest is K Mack. Stephen is a portrait photographer based in New York City. His work is inspired by light, atmosphere, and his portraits reflect creative collaborations with his clients. But in tonight's presentation, creating a fantastical Christmas concert poster, Stephen will share a behind-the-curtain walkthrough of a recent project beginning with pre-production, shooting, and some composite work to create a Christmas concert poster for the choral group Chanticleer. Stephen will share his workflow and demonstrate how he uses AI-generated elements, custom brushes, in Photoshop. If you're on Instagram, you can find Stephen at nomistphoto, and you can connect with him through his website at nomist.com, and I'll link those in the show notes below. Stephen, welcome back to the Happiness Hour.
Thank you, Linda. It's a pleasure to be back. I'm going to jump right in and share my screen here.
All right, I'll let you do it. Remember, I'm not a user of Photoshop, so dumb it down. Feel free to dumb it.
I'm not actually going to do anything too complicated here, I don't think. But Photoshop will really be kind of towards the end. I want to get just these windows out of the way here. So hopefully you can see the poster on the screen there.
Yeah. Can you give some background? Who are these guys and how did
Yes. So for those who don't know, Chanticleer was started, I think, in the 70s, and they are currently the only full-time all-male chamber music choir in the country. And they're based in San Francisco. They are absolutely fantastic. I found them, God, it was probably 20 years ago or so. Some friends of mine in New York said, "Oh, come to this Christmas concert. You're going to love it." It was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art here in New York. If anyone's ever been there, there's like a medieval section of the museum. And during Christmas time, they put a beautiful tree there. And these guys would stand in front of that tree and do Christmas songs from the Renaissance, from medieval times, and then all the way up to current. They would do sort of like pop type Christmas music as well. And their voices were amazing, and I became totally obsessed. So I've gotten to know them over the years. I joined their advisory board. I'm actually just officially got on their formal board. And one of the things that I do as a way to contribute is I do their photography. So I do their headshots, which you can see on my website, and sort of like group shots and whatnot as they need them. And one of the things that I've done with them in the past is, let me see if I can, so this image, for example, you can see that of all the guys in a row. One of the problems that they had is there's 12 of them. And every year one of them leaves, or not every year, but fairly regularly one of them leaves. And now the entire photo is unusable. And so I have to either go out to San Francisco, or they got to come here. They got to get a photographer, get them all together and do this again. So what I said is, let's just do this the 21st century way. And this is all composited. So they were not all standing like this. I shot them all separately and then put them in this line. So what's great is when one or two of them leave, I just reshoot that person in the same way and insert them in the space where the person had left. So it's very efficient. I only have to shoot one person. We're expanding this concept a bit more, and this actually does lead into the talk. This is a very horizontal photo, and then we have the issue, well, how do you photograph these guys in more of a vertical orientation? Because sometimes the concert promoters and venues need sort of like poster sizes, not this like horizontal, like this would be good for a bus or something like that. The other thing I'll say about this composite is it's completely surrounded by perfect black. And even though it's cropped in a little bit, the original image is just floating in black. And what's nice about that is then promoters can take this image and they can expand it infinitely up or to the right or down or whatever as needed for copy and that sort of thing. So it can be very fluid in how you use it. One of the things I'll show you, which I wasn't planning to talk about, but we're live and we're just going to do it anyway.
You can do whatever.
This is a upcoming composite, which I have not finished yet. Of the idea here was, since it is so hard to photograph 12 people, like in reality, vertically, you have to have them on stairs, or you do them, they called it this infamous bowling pin photo, where they'd get up high and then have them all kind of like in a triangle with one person in the front, like bowling pins. So I've had this idea of, well, what if we did this kind of like movie poster type composite? This is very, very basic. These are all renderings. This is not actually it. But it gave me a sense of placement and light and sort of composition. And now I can photograph to this. So that's the idea. It's flexibility, being able to easily update something and give the organization the most bang for their photographic buck, so that they can shoot something once or twice or whatever, and then arrange things in different ways and create something that can be used in all sorts of different sort of promotional and marketing material. Anyway, so back to this. So one of the urgent needs that they had, and I got this request in October, and they needed this in September, was a new Christmas poster. And typically what they've done in the past is they were always like in scarves in a studio, and they were kind of being super cheesy, but it was just all white and simple. And I thought, well, let's do something kind of really fun and different. And to solve the problem of stacking the gentleman, 12 people, I said, well, what if I kind of stack them in this tree like structure? And they had this sort of magical stream of glitter sort of going around them like a garland, with the star on the top and the logo at the bottom. So this is the final result. And I'm going to take you through kind of my thought process and how I got to this. So I'm going to close that. And the first thing I did actually is I used Midjourney. And for those of you who don't know what Midjourney is, it is one of really the forefront AI image software service, I guess. I guess it's service. And it's used, I'm not going to get too into this, but it's probably also one of the more controversial ones, because it started off specifically as an art. It was trained on a lot of art. It was trained on photographers. It was trained on a lot of creative imagery, which is why some of its results are just truly astonishing. And you'll see some things here. But I don't typically use it really ever for final work in any way. I really like using it to kind of come up with ideas or try things out, or how would something look? Because as someone who, I also have a background in graphic design, it's really hard to comp things. And you can spend like a whole day just putting something together that looks like something, only to realize, you know what, I don't really like it. So typically in most AR, I'm sorry, AR, AI is you type in a command, like a description, and then the AI interprets that and gives you what it thinks you might want. So I was just curious, because I hadn't had the idea for the tree yet, of how could we get sort of 12 guys composited? What would AI think a nice way to put 12 guys together would look? So I said 12 singing men dressed in tuxedos, dramatic photo studio lighting, and a black background. And if I double click on this, a little hard to see. It's kind of weird. They're like kind of over each other, and just it's interesting. I mean, I'm not quite sure what to say that. And I did another one of 12 men dressed in tuxedos. I did it again. I did it as a composite. I put that word in there to see what that would do. And it kind of did this like Brady Bunch thing. I mean, I don't know if that looks like they're singing or it looks like they're screaming in pain, but and then I said, well, give me a movie poster of 12 singing men dressed in tuxedos. And I just keep riffing on it and try different things. So this one's a little more dramatic. for some reason put this Chanticleer in here. But it's sort of interesting. You kind of look at it, it's like, well, do I like that? Do I not like that? Like, what do I think? Anyway, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. So then onto the Christmas project, I knew I needed, at the top of the image, I needed a star. And I looked on, I'm part of Adobe Stock, and I looked on that, and I didn't find anything I really liked. And I don't know why I didn't. I even used Adobe's generative AI, which we're not really going to get into here, but I didn't like the results I was getting there. So I said, well, I want a dramatic Christmas tree with an ornate star at the top. And I don't know how well you can all see that, but it gave me these kind of crazy trees with these ridiculous stars. This one, like the tree is the star. I don't really know what's going on there. And I said, well, okay, Christmas tree with dramatic star with a black background, and it kind of did these for me. And then I said, well, just give me, forget the tree, just give me a glowing Christmas holiday star on a black background. And it gave me these four. And actually, the one on the bottom right is the one I ended up using, I think, on the actual poster. I like the color. I tend to really like teal and yellow, teal and orange. It's a really nice complementary color. So I really like this star. So as we go down a little bit further, I said, okay, take this fourth option and just give me some variations on it. And then that's what it did. So it kind of gave me some subtle variations on the that last star that I liked. And they're very subtle. I mean, this one's a little more like icy looking, and this one's like sharper and, or different glows. And then I settled on one. I think I settled on the one on this top, the second one here. So I said, okay, take the second one and then give me as high resolution as you can. Now, nothing out of AI is high enough resolution that you could use for print. You can use other software like Topaz AI to increase the resolution of it. And there's some other software now that does upscaling, which are truly astonishing, and I won't get into that. But this was totally fine for my needs. It was on a nice black background, which is what I needed. It was high enough resolution that if I had to scale it up a bit and it got a little blurry, that was fine. So that was the star that I was going to use for my composite. What else can I show you here? Just oh, so so I knew I wanted this sort of like glitter going around a tree. So I said into Midjourney, I said I want glittering strings of lights encircling a Christmas tree, magical, fantastical, glowing, and dreamy. And it really just came up with these just like I mean, it's amazing. Like it is really, really cool. And I did this because I wanted to see, well, what would this look like? Like, what was I going for? And I kind of kept thinking back to Cinderella, where the fairy godmother like waves her wand and the glitter is all like going around, like that kind of deal. And this really captured that. And I loved it. I loved the look. And I was thinking, well, how can I control that? Because the problem with generative AI is you can't really control it. I can't say like I want it to go this way and then up and then around and then turn and do whatever. It's all very kind of randomized. But this was a fantastic way for me to kind of get a sense of the look that I liked. I really loved that first one, this one on the top left. And let's see what else I did here. Yeah, I kind of kept playing with that. I kept playing with the prompt and trying some other ones. I mean, I would use these as Christmas cards. I mean, these are just like really fun and just energetic and lively and festive. Um, then I said, well, I want more gold. I don't want all this like color. So I said golden glowing streams of fairy dust encircling a pine tree, magical, dreamy. And it really, it did that. It just took it sort of literally. It took me to a pine forest and it did golden glitter. Um, so and then I kind of keep going with this, and you can I'm not going to spend all our time on this, but you get the idea, golden string lights, and it's just really fun to play. And this was very much in line of this like fiery kind of magic vibe I was going for. I have to say, I don't think I captured this as well as this is here, but I thought I got close. Anyway, so that is that. So that is all we're going to talk about mid-journey there. So the next thing I had to do was figure out, how am I going to shoot these guys? Like, you know, I knew I wanted the glitter to go in front of them, and then the glitter was going to go behind them. And for the shoot, I did a 1x4 softbox here at the bottom. Let me just back up a little bit about where I am because I've pulled this software up before on previous happy hours. So this is a software called Set a Light. It's set.a.light. And I just find it absolutely invaluable in figuring out and doing pre-production on a shoot. I know exactly which lights I'm going to use. I'm going to know which reflectors I'm going to use. I'm going to know exactly where they're going to stand. And it all just works. And I can move around. I can click on a light. I can adjust the intensity. And it changes here on the right-hand side and updates the render. And it is physically accurate rendering. Like I can bounce things off stuff if I want to have those effects. And so this was a way for me to test how does this look. So I have this key light here on the bottom, which kind of made them look a little scary, which is one of the problems with underlight. And there's that fine line between kind of festive and scary. Like if you're kind of smiling and look happy, it could look great, or you could look like you're an axe murderer. And then this light up at the top would represent the lights going behind the singers, so that there's that lit, and then the star that would be behind them also. And then let me back up a little bit. I'm going to pull up this one. Discard. That's fine. Yeah, so this is kind of where I initially started, of maybe that they were being lit by moonlight. So I went with this sort of uh, cool beauty dish with a diffusion on it, and then this light in the back for the star. And you can see how it looks on the right-hand side. It kind of looks like has that nighttime kind of moonlight color, and then that warm glow of the star behind him. I did not go in that direction. I then thought maybe I would go in this direction, which was sort of a combo, because I didn't want them to look too scary. I've got the bottom key light, top light, and then just a little bit of fill of sort of moonlight. And then in the end, let me just go through here. This was another intermediary one. Now notice I don't have the reflector above them. So what's happening is this light here is just going straight up. This one's going straight down. And if you look at his face here on the right, he really does look quite scary. I mean, he looks like he's at the campfire. And so in the final one, in the final comp that I did, I have this reflector right above, which is just giving a little bit of fill onto his face, which you can see here. So he doesn't look as evil. So that was my pre-production. And that is essentially the setup that I did. I don't have any shots from the shoot, unfortunately, but what I can show you is, so I did these images, and as you can see, if I pull back, so out of satellite, I rendered each singer, and you can see all these are not, these are just sort of like models of various guys with different skin tone and facial hair and whatever, just to get a bit of a variety. And I rendered out all of them. And then what I'm going to do now is, this is my test composite for me to try out everything. And does the concept even work? And each singer, this digital singer, was brought in, and I placed them, and I figured all that out. And then I had to figure out how to do the glowing star trail thing, and then how I was going to do the glow and whatnot. The star up there was not the star I did in Midjourney. This was at an earlier stage. And I'll just kind of take you through the layers here a little bit, just so you can see how everything kind of came together. So I add a black background, and then I turn this on. I added a bit of a star field. Oh no, I had two versions of this. Let me see. Give me one second. There is a layer comps. That's right. Let me turn this one on. Okay, yes. There we go. So this was the one I ended up this was like the comp that I kind of went with, but I also had another version. This is actually closer to what I finally did, where I added that sort of sky star background just to add a little bit more dimension. And you can see in this one, there's the blue on their faces compared to this. And we actually sort of the final image is kind of emerging between these two a little bit, which we'll get to. So it's going to be a little tricky for me to do this, but let's see how this works because don't do what I'm doing by not labeling stuff. Oh no, I did label this. This is Singer's Dramatic. So, okay, there, that's going to be much easier. Okay, so we've got just a white background. Then I've got black. Then I have got my star. And then I kind of played with some levels on the star. I added in the singers, and the singers are all, individual here. I can turn them off and on. And then I had masks that I used to kind of paint away their torsos. And then here I just added just a bit of a glow, just to kind of, might be a little hard to see, but kind of lightens their faces and kind of gives a little bit of a fog. Just added the text in with a simple glow effect in Photoshop, nothing too fancy. Then I added, this is just I'll show you this layer without this blend mode on it. So you can just see it. So this is just like zoom controls are in the way. Yeah, this is just like a starburst I found. I think I found that on Adobe and I just downloaded that and used that just to give the star some glow. And I put it on the screen blending mode so it kind of fades in. And then I added just some extra boost of color and brightness with a curve. Sorry, let me scroll this down. Change the color tone a little bit. Added the light trails, which is a whole nother thing, which I'm going to get to in a second. And then just kind of refined some of the color and added some grain, and that's the comp. So this was I don't want to spend too much time on this because I'm going to do this whole thing again when I show you the final one. But that was the comp. And that's what I sent to Chanticleer for their approval. They were really into it. I said, is this too cheesy? And they like cheesy and they thought it was magical and fun. And that's what we did. So the guys came to, we met at a studio in New Jersey. Let's see, let me open up this session here and capture one. I'm always nervous when go ahead.
I was just ask a silly question, but so let's say one of the singers decides to leave right after you finish it. Would it be easy for you to?
Easy.
Okay.
Super easy. Like not a problem at all. So here are the singers. Now here's a funny thing. So here you can see, now I wish I had taken so you're going to see several shots here. The ones that concern us are these yellowish ones because I put a gel on the light. And what's funny is, one moment. So okay, so here's Tavian. I think I actually used this exact shot of him. What's funny is people look terrible singing. They actually look like this. And so I directed them all to just kind of like they were smiling, like sort of big smiling. And that's what they did. And they were all super game. But this is what the raw sort of image looked like. It's really nothing that exciting. I did not shoot on a green screen or do any of that because there was enough contrast here that it was pretty easy to mask this out in Photoshop. So that's basically it. And I have a few options. And I had to also get them at different angles because there were people at sort of the ends of the poster that I wanted to be looking out into one side and the other side. And I wanted some flexibility for let me see here. Yeah, for which image I could choose. So I had them look in different directions. I had them look up, I had them look down. And then I kind of had to sit and go through this and figure out, okay, who would go in which space the best. And you can see the light in the background here. That's the same thing that I had in Set a Light to add that little highlight to them. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how the images came out there. And let me just then hop into let me just go here to, yeah. Okay. So here is, let's go to Andy. That was the one I just, no, that's wrong. Okay. So here's Andrew. This is the one I was just on in Capture One. And, I did a lot, I did some color correction. I did my normal retouching that I would do, removed him from the background. Doesn't have to be perfect. He's going to be so small, but I just used Photoshop has a really fantastic. Let me just start over here. Just show you from here. Okay. Actually, there's a really good before and after. I don't know if you can see that. So that's the before. No, sorry, that's the after. This is the before. So I softened a lot of those sort of harsh shadows on his face. So he just looks a lot less evil, I guess. Um, this is what I would say. This is more flattering. No one looks good in this light. And so even someone as handsome as he is, but so we all need the help. So anyway, so I fixed that up. So what I want to do is I just want to show you this separation feature in Photoshop. Let me just, okay. All right, so I'm just on this layer, and there are many, many ways I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but in the object selection tool, as I roll over, you can see it just knows that there's a person there, and I can click on it and remove him. But what I do is, if you go up to select subject, it does that. It selects the subject. Now, these are very clean lines here, pretty much. I mean, it's not a woman with like a lot of hair, or he's not a guy with like a lot of curly hair all over the place. But if that's the case, if you click on this little arrow, there's a cloud version of this where it goes online and I think uses AI to some degree, or more powerful computers, to analyze this photo to extract the person. So I always use that. It's not on by default. So I just click on it and then do select subject. And actually, if you notice, in this case, it got this little line here between his arm and his torso. The other version of the subject remove or subject separation didn't do that. So that's all I do. And then I clean up the mask if I need to. Again, I'm not going to get too into all this. We can have a whole session on that. And then once I had everybody separated out, it was time to bring everything together into the final composite. So I'm going to get rid of Andy here and go to the main holiday poster. So there's Andy there in the corner. And I chose that pose for him because I wanted him in this section because he's looking off to his right and Jared is looking off to his left and Tavian here in the middle is looking in the middle. And I just think about things, kind of emotional things, like I loved Tavian's expression, probably one of the most out of all of them, just the way his face was caught the light and he had this wonderful smile and the way he was sort of looking down, like he was sort of taking in the magic of these glitter lights. I wanted to emphasize that, so I put him there. Okay, so let's go through this one step by step. Before I do that, well, I guess I'll talk about the glitter as we go here, or as I get to it. So let me just make sure I'm not turning off anything that I'm going to regret.
Don't mess up the original.
The what?
Don't mess up your original.
No. Everything's backed up 10 ways to Sunday. It's totally fine. Okay, so I can turn everything on one by one, and that's fine. So first there was a star. So this star folder actually consists of 3 layers. So I'm going to turn those 3 layers off, turn them on one by one. There's my Midjourney star right there. I'll zoom in so you can all see it. Not super high res, but high enough. I then added those streaks of light on top of it, just to give it that extra kind of magical brightness. And then I added a little bit of a lens. I found this on Adobe stock also. This is just like a lens flare that I really liked, and it just kind of gave it that extra sense of brightness and magic. So that's that. And then we get up to the singers. I'm going to zoom out, and it's just this is so interesting to me. Like this is such an interesting thing about compositing. It's like when you throw things in like this, you're like, oh, that looks wrong. Like it doesn't look real or integrated in any way. This is just them straight up. There are different files brought in and organized. And I'm trying to see if I did anything. Yeah, I organized. I have their names. I have the row that they're in because as I was tweaking, it was like really hard to remember like what was where, and I could turn certain rows off and on, like so, or different people off and on. So there are the singers. And then on top of that, now I have these layers here are some adjustment layers just to kind of tweak their look a little bit. So here, as you can see, I'm toggling this off and on. They have a little bit more contrast, very subtle. Then I also increase the contrast even more just to kind of really bring in more drama because what's going to happen is as I do stuff later on, I probably did this after the fact. Some of the things I'm going to do later are going to really lighten them up because I'm going to add a bunch of glows and things like that. So if they were too light, they would look very washed out. And then I added a bit of a yellowish tint to their skin. And that's very, very, very subtle. Let's go into Matthew here. So you can sort of see a bit of a yellow glow. Just to kind of equalize things a little bit. So now let's talk about the glitter. So I'm going to turn the glitter on. Now, we're going to talk about how I made it glow later, but let's talk about first about how I painted it. So I'm going to go into a new document here. And Photoshop, if you really have nothing better to do and want to do something kind of watch something fun and mindless, is there's a Pix Imperfect on YouTube. You may know him. He's a really great guy who his name is Unmesh or something. And he does amazing Photoshop tutorials. And he has a great one on Photoshop brushes. And Photoshop brushes are really quite powerful. You can do a lot with them. So I have my little Wacom tablet here, which I use for retouching and all sorts of things. And I'm just going to go up and just, we all know the brushes and you can do these sorts of things with it. But to the side here, you have the brush settings palette, which does all sorts of fantastic things. So if I go up to shape dynamics, and if you can see here, there's size jitter, I can randomize the size of the brush as I move around. So as I move the brush around, you can see I get this very, let me undo that. I'm going to make this bigger for you so you can see it. I get this rough brush, or this brush where the size is dynamically changing as I move it. I can do something really cool where since I have a tablet and there's pressure sensitivity on this, under control, I can say I want the pressure of the pen to control the size. So depending on how hard I push down, I'm really going to make this large, you'll see. So I'm pushing down really hard and now I'm letting go. And now I'm going very light. Now the thing is, there's a jitter, okay? So it's gonna oscillate between super small to super big. And my pen is going to determine the smallest part. So that's a lot. I'm going to turn off the jitter, okay? Just so you can see. 1 second. So now I turned off the jitter. So now I'm just using my pen. And now I'm pushing down hard. And now I'm pushing very light. And now I'm pushing hard and now I'm light. So as I use my pen, different things can happen. Anyway, sorry, I can talk forever about that too. 1 moment. So anyway, so I can have the size change. So I have the size changed by pen pressure. Then I can have how the brush scatters. So you can see as I change this, the brush will scatter. I can have it scatter horizontally and vertically for more randomness. So I don't want my lights to be blurred like this. I want them to be actually very hard. So I can increase the hardness and I can increase the scatter. Let's change the size. That's too big. Let's see if we can make the scatter even more. So that's just some scattering. and then the shape, the size based off of my pen pressure. So now watch me paint here. Whoops, I'm painting with black. And you can see, if I spent a little bit more time with that, I could probably get something pretty great. So let's just kind of play here a little bit. Now, I should also mention, you don't have to, you can get really creative with this. Like people use this to make snow and put snow in their photos, like falling snow. Um, there's tons of tutorials on creative ways to use this. So anyway, so this is essentially the kind of thing that I did to make this glitter. And I just played with these settings to do different layers of the glitter. So let's go back to our first one here. So let's break down these layers here. So where are we? Glitter. Okay, so I'm going to turn these off. So this was my first layer of glitter, which was very, very similar to what I just did for you in the demo. I just kind of painted, I made this first layer of very, very fine glitter as sort of like the core to the glitter, because it kind of has a core and then there's like the parts that kind of fall down. Then I added that extra layer of shape, of kind of dimension and sort of drama to it. So kind of like, on the sides, when the glitter would be like turning, it would actually be a bit denser, kind of like, think of it like a driveway, like a road. Like if you look at a road that's curving, it has that kind of, as it curves, it gets wider and then it thins out as it gets, goes horizontally again. So I wanted to kind of give that effect. And so that was painted on quite meticulously. I used a special brush. I'll show you kind of how I did that. It's actually kind of interesting. So I used the brush, but I also did there's a fade transfer. Yes, opacity. So here, so I can fade with pen pressure. So you can see now it gets faded. So now, you get these like wispy kind of thing. So what I did was I went, let's say it was this corner, and I kind of just like, oh, this is really not, it had to be smaller than this. I kind of like painted in, this is a really bad version of, but this is what I did. So I kind of like painted in, these like kind of streams and things kind of coming off of it. I have to get this brush setting right. This is not correct, but that's what I did. Anyway, so that's how we did all these little bits and bobs. And then finally, we added these sort of large bouquet type circles in the very, very foreground. And then we added in, added in a star field in the background just to give that little bit of glow and a little bit of dimension. Added in the text. And then here's kind of the kicker, and I'm going to do this as a separate thing. I added the glows. I added the glow to the text and the glow to the glitter trail. So the big question is, how did I do the glow? Now you might think, oh, you do a Gaussian blur and put it on screen and then you get a glow. But it's not like optically real. That's what I did in this version. And as you can see, it's kind of like blah. Like it just doesn't, I mean, there's a blur and I guess it's glowing, but it doesn't have the same sort of oomph, like light oomph that this does. So I want to tell you about a really cool program that I learned about. Actually, I learned about it from the guy who ran the studio that I did the shoot with. When I shot Chanticleer, I was telling him about the project. He's like, I'm trying to find some way to do this glow. He said, oh, you got to use this software called Oneric. And it's this little glowy icon up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my brush again. I'm just going to actually choose, this was my actual glitter brush. This is the one that I actually used when I did the actual Chanticleer thing. So let's go into that, and I'm going to I'm just going to paint some stuff here and do this and whatever, and maybe do some thin ones in here. Okay, really boring. Watch this. So I'm going to hit this. And I'm going to say, I'm really not going to get too into this. There's a bunch of different settings on here. So Oneric is this plugin of Photoshop, and it just applied this glow to this image. Now I can do things like I can change the sort of the brightness of it. Let's try that. Um, sorry. Let me lower this down a little bit. There we go. All right. And now what gets really exciting, that's just white, but if I go in here, I can play with some color. And so now by default, it's going to do this amazing sort of optical glow. And I can say, well, I want more like a yellowy type thing. So I can go or more orange. Let's move the hue over a little bit. And
Hey, Stephen, before you
yeah,
click on the color, what did you click on?
this up here, the opacity. Yeah. So for example, let me turn off the color. So now I'm just playing with the opacity. So it's sort of like
Okay.
how much the
Okay.
and how intense the glow is. And there's different things you can do. Like, so for example, I can keep the opacity, but I can change like the exposure so that everything will sort of bloom out and get kind of
Okay.
crazy.
Mhm.
Um,
Thanks. We just missed what you clicked on. So
sure, yeah, no problem.
go back
And
to,
then so yeah, I'll go back to the color. And then you can do some really amazing things. You have these effects where you can do uh, these glares. So for example, let's do center. See if it's going to do that. Ooh, sorry. So kind of trippy.
I was like, look, yeah,
Um,
disco-y.
yeah, sort of a disco-y type thing. Um, anyway, so I'm looking. There's this program does all sorts of things, but that is what I did for the glow. So that's how we did that. So once I had that all there, I did a separate Oneric setting for the logo, and then this one for the glitter, and and that's how that whole thing came together. And I'm happy to answer any questions or go back to anything you want me to explain in more detail.
I don't even know what kind of questions to ask because this is so over my head. But I'm going to repeat the name of um the you the YouTube guy. It was
Yes,
Pix
it's Pix Imperfect.
and it's
Pix Imperfect.
by
Hold on, I can 1 second. Let me
I
see.
think I have it. I have
You have it?
Umesh Dinda.
Yes, that's him. I mean, if
Okay.
you do Pix Imperfect into YouTube, you'll find him. I mean, he is really anybody wanting to get into Photoshop. I think he's just the best. He's explains things really well. I go to him. I watch his videos sometimes because I'll learn some technique um, and he's really fun. And the videos are quite short. So.
All right. Anybody have any questions for me? Okay, so do they come to you? Let's go ahead and take this down. Do do clients come to you and say, "This is the ideas I have," or do they just say, "Stephen, run with it. We don't care what you do."
Yeah, it kind of varies. I don't, did we talk about that image of the two guys? Yes, in the pond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that a lot of times they just come with inspiration for something. And then, I will use that as a way as a jumping off point. So it just kind of depends. I don't work a lot with art directors that would have a very set sort of idea about what they want. I haven't done that in quite some time. Most of the time, people just look to me for fleshing out the concept. I mean, I have a background in art direction, so that might be why a little bit, um, but yeah.
So there is one question Susan's got for you. Don't worry, Susan. I feel the same way. Um, so how do you get the glitter behind the singers?
That is such a good question. That is such a good
She
question.
wants to know,
That is like,
do you add it just adding them later is her question? Yeah.
no, that's such a good question. No, that's great. I am so happy you asked that. So, all right. So here's what I did. So the glitter actually does not go behind them. I'm going to do something. So this is actually how the glitter looks. Now, if you look here, there's a mask on the glitter folder that just turns off the glitter when it passes through this. So you might ask, well, how do I get that mask? Well, the cool thing is I already have all the guys cut out. So what I can do is this. If I go to, oh, here they are. Here are the singers. So if I click on, so here are all my singers. Let me turn. So if I hold down the command key and I click on each of the singers, I get a mask because they were brought in fully removed. So if I hold down the shift, I'm now building a mask of each of the singers. So what I did is I said, okay, well, let's take Bradley right here. So here's Bradley. He's in the middle with the long hair. So there's his mask. So I know if I go here, there he is. I just filled that in with black, and now the glitter would not go
On,
across his face.
I see.
So it's faked. It's not actually going behind. I'm just masking it at that point. But that's a great question. I'm so happy that was asked.
It's seamless. So it's kind of you gave us a little well, literally a look behind the curtain. All right. I'm not seeing any questions. I think because it's over our heads. I think a lot of the people in here are mostly landscape photographers, and who else is in here? Wildlife photographers. So this is all like smoke and mirrors to us.
Oh,
So
I wish I had something more relevant to tell you then.
no, but this is so cool. Um, yeah, this is. Oh, Susan says she's so happy to please you. She was the one that had the question.
The question.
Yeah, she says she doesn't know how to do math, so she's gonna have to work on that. But every time you come, it makes me regret that I just don't spend enough time trying to learn Photoshop. I get mad at myself every time because I want to be able to like ask you these really smart questions that I don't have.
No,
Yeah,
it's like,
great.
look, this is what I just went through is even beyond what I normally would do on a talk like this. One time we did the one with the lighting with the Moana doll, and
Yeah.
um, was that
Love.
with you? Did we do
Yes.
that? Okay, yeah,
Wait a minute.
I've
Wait a
done a
minute.
few.
Who else are you doing it with, Steven? I feel like
I have had a couple of other
you cheated. You
lectures, so
cheated
I
on me.
can't remember what was with what. But so yeah, this is like, I mean, what
This is amazing.
5% of that was photography.
Yeah. But that's just it. We have the tools. Almost every person in here has a subscription to Lightroom, and it comes with Photoshop. And we are not, I know I'm not utilizing all the toys in
mhm.
the chest, and it's there. And so that's what's pretty, that's what kind of makes me regret I need to play. And I just don't make the time to play. I get a little frustrated very quickly. But it's fun to watch you play. So I love it when you come. So thank you for doing that. I know Valerie just typed in, she said, and she and I are the same. We talk about this all the time. Photoshop is over her head too, but it does, it really, when you come, you show us what we could do with it if we just had the skill sets. So it's, yeah, between the creativity and the actual tools and utilizing them, there's a lot of possibilities here. So, um, you're coming back, right?
Of course, I'm happy to. And if you want to do
You
AI
can do
stuff on the next
you
one, and
can do anything you want. I've
okay.
said this to you in person, I mean, off camera, and I'm going to say it on camera. As long as I'm doing the happiness hour, I want you here at least once a
Oh,
year.
thank you, Linda.
I
It's a
love it.
pleasure, and appreciate you all hopefully being entertained by my total nerdiness. But
Oh, I love it. I absolutely, this is your fifth session for us. And each time it's like, what is he going to bring us? And I so appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to come and be a nerd for us and show us what you can do and show us what you're doing. Like, this is kind of like your work. I mean, it's not just goofing around making a poster. These, like Aaron was sending me a note going, "We are going. I will take you to listen to these guys. They're fantastic."
Oh, let me just total on a side.
Yeah.
They are amazing. Like you have to, I know they probably go through Austin, look, you can go to their website, chanticleer.org, and go to their Christmas concert. It is like, it's truly something else.
All right. Well, I will actually, when I post this to the YouTube, I will link their website
Yep.
to it.
Yeah, that's
So
perfect.
I'll do that for them. So, Stephen, thanks so much for coming and sharing your Wednesday night with us.
Thank you, Linda.
All right. Next week, wildlife photographer Vince Maidens will be here to share his thoughts in his presentation, True to the Lens, the Art of Authenticity in Wildlife Photography. Until next time, go out and create something beautiful. And I hope that we see you again soon.